You done with the 15th?
Cleo,
Yeah.
do you know what this means?
You get to go to Haiti.
This means you get to
What did he say?
Early on in our marriage, Ryan and I really felt like God was calling us to grow our family through international adoption. And we individually felt like God confirmed that He had a child waiting for us in Haiti. At the time of our adoption, it was taking 2, sometimes 3 years for children to be united with their forever family. And we were matched with Cleo and then planned our first of 2 in-country visits to Haiti. And prior to that trip, I remember very specifically a prayer that I was praying for Cleo. I remember the words immeasurably more, just rolling out of my mouth as part of my prayer. And it comes from Ephesians 3, verse 20 that says, "Now to Him who is able to do immeasurably more than we could ask or imagine, to Him be the glory." So I prayed, God, if you can do immeasurably more, then I'm going to ask that you bring Cleo home by Christmas.
Since we have 2 biological children already, when we decided to adopt, Sue told me, all right, I carried the first 2 children, so you're carrying this one. And we both, of course, prepared for our child. But that basically meant that I was in charge of the paperwork, making sure that we hit all of our deadlines and all that. So I was well aware of how long adoptions were taking at that point. So when Sue told me about her prayer and how she felt that the Lord told her that our son would be home by Christmas, I actually felt like maybe she was being a little naive. And I know that God can do immeasurably more, but international adoptions don't just happen 2 months after your initial visit. That's crazy. She had faith, and I'm so glad that she had the faith that she did, because her faith moved mountains. After the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, 10 days later, Cleo, along with all the other children in the orphanage, were evacuated to the United States, and we were told we had 24 hours to get down to Miami so we could take Cleo to be home with us forever. After being on the ground in Haiti and seeing the overwhelming need, we decided to start taking teams down from Faith Church to the orphanage to serve at God's Littlest Angels. It's known as GLA. And GLA takes in malnourished children, children without parents, without families, and provides food and shelter. There are only a handful of NICUs in the entire nation of Haiti, and GLA is one of them.
And it really felt like part of God's immeasurably more, because when we began the adoption process, we weren't even considering bringing teams to serve. We brought piles of donations that were so generously given by the community and by church, so we could bless the children and the staff at the orphanage with those donations. And our teams just worked hard at loving kids, but also at building a new orphanage, which was further up the mountain, a place that was a bit safer for the children and gave them a whole lot more room to play and grow.
Tony and I went on a mission trip. I think it was one of our last trips we went on to Haiti. Our church had been doing a number of them for quite a few years. So at some point on our trip, Sue had brought up to our whole group that it was on her heart that she'd really like to take Cleo back here before the orphanage was moved to their central location, because ever since the earthquake had happened in 2010, the orphanage had been spread out into 3 different locations, and they were going to center it back to the one location and move out of where they had originally been, where Cleo had come into the picture at. And she said she would really like to get Cleo there at some point to see where she was first introduced to him, where she first held him.
But I remember in Haiti her also saying she felt the other 2 kids needed to see Cleo's roots, and that it wasn't just about Cleo, it was about the entire family. Yeah. She would not come without taking the entire family.
So on the plane ride home, we were coming home, and me and Tony were sitting behind Dawn, and Dawn turned around at us and says,
"We need to bring them back home. This is our mission now. This is our next mission trip, is to get them and their family back to Haiti."
Me and Tony looked at each other and we're like, yeah,
Great idea.
That was a great idea.
And so when we got back home later on, we met at my house and we just came up with how we were going to do it, when we were going to do it, how much money we wanted to raise or needed to raise to get the whole family there. And then we just set up the Facebook page that blocked Sue and Ryan so they couldn't see it, as we wanted it to be a surprise, and just reached out to a bunch of friends, family, faith church members that we knew would want to bless this amazing family.
This church just blew us all away. It was amazing to see, and it wasn't just large donations. That was one thing that blew me away, was the amount of people that gave something.
So there was a young couple that we were mentoring who had actually met on a mission trip to Haiti, and they asked if they could stop by, and I was like, of course, and didn't really care about the piles of laundry that were in the laundry room. And we were definitely a bit surprised when they showed up with Dawn and Jim and Tony and a few others with a super big surprise for us.
Yeah, we walked in the house and we had our balloons and we had the camera and there were a few of us, and Sue's like, what is this all about?
But once we write a letter to them and presented them with the check, the joy and excitement and tears and just all the emotion, all the positive, awesome emotions that come with receiving a gift like that was just truly amazing to be a part of. I think generosity is a very humbling but exciting experience. Being generous is what we're made to do. We're made to be generous with our times, talents, treasures. It just brings such joy and excitement. It gives me goosebumps now as I'm talking about it.
I think what people need to realize is there are so many ways to give. Some people feel like they have to give big or don't. It doesn't count. Anything counts. A pair of socks, if you're looking for donations, if somebody's asking for donations, it doesn't matter.
Life is so much happier and joyful when you are giving back, or giving, period, like my wife said. It was not a lot of big donations.
Yeah, there was a lot of...
Most 90% of the donations that were given for Ryan and Sue were under $25, or $50 or less.
50 or under, yeah.
90% of them were $50 or less. But it was that many people that come together that made all the difference in the world to raise that money.
Gave us enough money for them
so their family could go.
It's hard to even describe how blessed we were by the generosity and the love of so many people that allowed us to take this trip that we couldn't have done on our own.
Our church family is amazing. We were absolutely blown away by this gift of generosity, and it was such an important trip for us in the life of our family. Being the recipients of this blessing, of this generosity, it just inspires us to want to be a blessing to others, and even if it's just in a small way. I just keep thinking back to that prayer that Sue prayed, immeasurably more than all we could ask or imagine. It just continues on, and I feel like that's what generosity does.